Alright, what's going on guys? So today, we're just gonna go over every single deck that I played on this channel in the year 2018. And if you're interested in any of these decks, if you see a deck that you think is cool, maybe you missed it when it was originally uploaded, I'm going to leave links to every single deck in the description below. So yeah, check it out. There is obviously a full playlist with every deck here, a complete deck tech, as well as at least 5 games, if not bonus games, featuring that deck. So pretty cool. So to start, the first deck we played on the channel this year was Combustible Colossus, a standard deck back when Kaladesh was in standard. The deck was basically looking to cast Combustible Gearhulk and Panharmonicon. Yeah, super fun. Clunky as crap, but fun. So when Combustible Gearhulk enters the battlefield, our opponent has a choice. They can let us draw 3 cards, or we put the top 3 cards of our library into our graveyard, and Combustible Gearhulk deals damage to that player equal to the total converted mana cost. So that alone is kind of clunky because most people will just choose to take the damage, and between like lands and like 1 to 2 mana removal spells, they won't actually take a ton of damage. But with Panharmonicon, we get to double that trigger. So basically, we get to draw 6 cards, or they take damage from 6 cards off the top. And technically they can mix and match, but basically it's a ton of value. But it gets even crazier because we were also playing Metalwork Colossus, which has a converted mana cost of a whole bunch. So if we hit that off the top when we played Combustible Gearhulk, we could potentially deal, like 30 damage. It's just, we'd rip cards off the top of the library. If we hit Metalwork Colossus, big damage. Alternatively, our opponent just lets us draw 3 to 6 cards. And the rest of the deck was just red, black, and trolls. So if they let us draw all those cards, we were just, being fed removal spells. And the deck did have a lot of non-creature artifacts, so it could cast Metalwork Colossus. Like, our opponent would fill our hand with artifacts, and we'd cast them really quick and just play out the Metalwork Colossus if they let us draw. It was kind of a win-win. It was janky, it was ridiculous, but it was kind of fun. After that, we played Rakdos Control in Pauper. It was basically typical Rakdos Control. We were playing Lightning Bolt, we were playing Terminate, we were playing Chainer's Edict, just kill stuff, blow stuff up, destroy all the things, all of that stuff. But what made the deck really cool was it had a really good hand disruption package. We were playing Duress, Wrenchmind, and Blightning, and this just gave us a lot of ways to just completely strip our opponent's hand away. It was crazy. We'd play Wrenchmind turn 2, they lose 2 cards, turn 3, we'd rip 2 more cards out, we'd deal 3 damage. If they were playing stuff afterwards, we'd start bolting and terminating and just killing everything, and yeah, our opponent would just be left with nothing. And then of course, after that, we'd win the game with something like, Gurmag Angler, or we would just grind them out with Relentless Rats and Phyrexian Rager and stuff like that. Basically typical Rakdos Control for sure. After that, we played Budget Affinity. Now I actually think this is the worst of the 2 Affinity decks that we played this year. I actually played another one later in the year that I think is better, but a whole lot more people watched this. But basically it played the typical aggro package, Memnite, Ornithopter, Bolt Scourge, Signal Pest, and of course Cranial Plating. So yeah, just the basic kind of Affinity aggro package, but we were trying to test a couple cards. Right before I played this in Modern, I did a Planeswalker deck upgrade video for Tezzeret, Master of Metal, and that came with Tezzeret's Touch. So I wanted to test the card, so I put Tezzeret's Touch and Enso Artifact into a Modern deck just to see how it would feel, kind of at the tournament practice level on Magic Online, and it was pretty decent. Tezzeret's Touch is actually not that bad. It turns an artifact into a 5/5 creature, and the best part about it is that artifact doesn't lose its abilities. So if we play it on like a Bolt Scourge, it becomes a 5/5 flying with lifelink, and the best part is if a creature is destroyed that Tezzeret's Touch is enchanting, it bounces it back to our hand, so we don't actually go down in card advantage. So yeah, it was fun, it was a cool deck, it was super budget, it was pretty janky, but the idea was just to test those cards, and it did okay. After that, we played what might be one of the jankier decks of the year, but definitely just kind of ridiculous. It was Abzan Panharmonicon. So just going by the title, you can probably guess that we were playing Panharmonicon again, the 4 mana artifact that lets you double enter the battlefield triggers. So the problem with Panharmonicon in Modern is that it's a 4 mana artifact that doesn't affect the board when it comes into play, which is pretty scary and a little bit dangerous in Modern. But I played Panharmonicon in Modern because I wanted to combine it with Siege Rhino. Oh yeah, good old Siege Rhino. 4 mana, 4/5, okay in Modern. Really good when it was in Standard, pretty okay in Modern. But when it comes into play, it drains the opponent for 3. They lose 3 life, you gain 3 life. And with Panharmonicon, that becomes 6. Opponent loses 6, you gain 6. No, you're creating a 12-point life swing. Your opponent's going down 6 6, you're gaining 6. So that's pretty good. And you're putting a 4/5 with trample on the battlefield. So that was the idea of the deck. I just wanted to do this. And when I was testing the deck, you know, it was okay. It was fun when this happened, but when it didn't, it was just like, you know, whatever. And then I played against someone who was playing Obvidat Ghost Council. It's a 4-mana 5/5, you know, not great, but when it enters the battlefield, it drains the opponent for 2, which is also not very much. But here's the thing, at the end of your turn, it exiles itself, and then your next turn, it comes back into play with haste. Most importantly, because it's entering the battlefield, you get that trigger a second time. So with Panharmonicon, we were draining our opponent for at least 4, maybe 6 every single turn, and it did pretty well actually. It was surprisingly decent. After that, we played Green-Black Monsters, which was a pauper deck. This was a creature heavy deck that just wanted to play some of the biggest creatures, or at least some of the biggest, you know, reasonably playable creatures and pauper. That being Imperiosaur, Blastoderm, and Gurmag Angler. So yeah, just really big, beefy creatures and pauper. I wanted to play these, so I just put them in a really like curve-focused green-black deck that was just looking to play big stuff every turn, like Putrid Leech and Phyrexian Rager and Faceless Butcher. You know, the Putrid Leech, 2-mana 2/2, but we usually just pay 2 mana for it and make it a 4/4. The Rager gets us some card advantage. The Butcher exiles a creature until it leaves play. So yeah, they were just decent. We were just looking to play all creatures, but all creatures that kind of generated value somehow, or were just bigger than they should be for their mana cost, and you know, the deck was kind of mediocre. After that was Mono Red Battlecry, and I feel like this is the sort of underdog deck of the year because not many people watched it, at least not initially. I think it's grown over time, but the deck was super fun. Like, I was really enthusiastic about this deck. I still am. So we're looking to play Battlecry creatures, things like Signal Pest and Goblin War Driver. Now, Goblin War Driver is not modern playable. It's not something that you see, but it actually kind of worked in this deck. So the important thing here is that both of these things have Battlecry, which means that when we attack, all other creatures that we control that are attacking get +1/+0. And we were looking to pair these creatures with things that spit out tokens, things like Kari Zev and Hanweir Garrison. So both of these spit out tokens when they attack. Kari Zev puts out a 2/1 monkey, and the Garrison puts 2 1/1 soldier tokens into play upon attacking. So the cool thing about this is that when we attack with these and the Battlecry creatures, we get to resolve the triggers in whatever order we want. So what we do, we resolve the token triggers first, and we put the tokens into play tapped and attacking. Then we resolve the Battlecry triggers, and the tokens actually get the buff effect from Battlecry. So we would go from like 0 to 60 in no time. It was crazy. We'd have a turn where we're like, yeah, we've got Signal Pest and we've got Hanweir Garrison, not that exciting. And then we'd play like Hero of Oxid Ridge, which is one of the most explosive cards in the deck. It's a 4-mana 4-power creature with haste and Battlecry, and then suddenly, you know, Hanweir Garrison's a 4/3, the tokens are 3/1s, Hero of Oxid Ridge is a 5/2, and it also makes our opponent's creatures, you know, if they have smaller creatures, they're unable to block, and then suddenly we're just dealing massive amounts of damage, and that's what the deck did. We'd go from like having no damage on the battlefield, right? Yeah, we can do like 5 damage, no big deal, and then the next turn we just go crazy, and suddenly we're attacking for like 17. I still play this deck a lot in my free time. Haven't recorded any bonus games with it, I don't think. Maybe we'll do some of those soon, but if you missed it, I feel like a lot of people did, at least when I was originally uploading it. Check that deck out because I thought it was fun. After that, we played Blast Affinity, the second time we played Affinity on the channel this year, and this is the deck that I play in paper. It uses the same Affinity aggro package as Budget Affinity, so we're looking to just flood the board with these things super quick, get tons of damage in as quick as we can. But the problem I was having in paper, I'd bring my opponent down to like 5 life, I'd almost kill them, and then they'd play a board sweeper on like turn 3, you know, like an Anger of the Gods, something like that. I'd destroy my opponent for 3 turns and then I'd lose. So I just needed reach. I was like, man, I just need a way to get some reach. And it turns out the answer was blast spells, namely Galvanic Blast and Shrapnel Blast. So what makes these so good is that they're super cheap and they deal a ton of damage. I mean, we can have hands where we literally have like 13 to 14 burn damage in our hand, and we just need to deal 6 damage, and 6 damage is super easy to do with Affinity. You know, basically we just go crazy for the first couple turns, we deal as much damage as we can, and right at the point where our opponent starts stabilizing and our deck just starts falling off the rails and stops working, we just start flinging blast spells, you know, 4 damage to the face, 5 damage to the face, and that's how we win. It just gave us reach to win with just the aggro Affinity package and without having, you know, Arcbound Ravagers and Inkmoth Nexus and stuff like that. So pretty decent. After that, we played Ace Snakes, which is also the deck that I played in paper, sort of. When Kaladesh was legal, I was playing Green Green-Black Constrictor. So if you're not familiar with Green-Black Constrictor, it played things like Winding Constrictor, Long Tusk Cub, and Rishkar Pima Renegade. So the important thing here is that Winding Constrictor doubles counters. Whenever we get a counter, we get an extra one. It doesn't double, it adds one extra whenever we get a counter. But of course, I wanted to jankify it a bit for the channel, so we added Panharmonicon, of course Panharmonicon. We play a lot of Panharmonicon on this channel. So Panharmonicon in standard, not only do we get double the enter the battlefield effect, but we also get double the counters of both enter the battlefield effects. So let's look at, say, Verdurous Gearhulk. When it enters the battlefield, we distribute 4 +1/+1 counters. With Panharmonicon, we get to distribute 4 +1/+1 counters twice. And with Winding Constrictor, each one of those +1/+1 counters doubles. So basically we were doubling enter the battlefield effects and then doubling the counters that we placed. That was the idea. That's why it was called Ace Snakes. The non-Panharmonicon deck was called Snakes or Constrictor. And we were basically adding 4 extra copies of the snake in the form of Panharmonicon. Pretty janky, but pretty fun. So after that, we played Penny Bots, the first ever Penny Dreadful series on the channel. So if you're not familiar with Penny Dreadful, I made multiple Penny Dreadful videos before going into the series, or I made one video before, one video after. I will link to those videos in the description as well. So if you're not familiar with Penny Dreadful, I do have an introductory guide as well as a how to play guide. So anyway, in season 10, Tempered Steel is illegal. 3 mana enchantment that gives all artifact creatures +2/+2. So the idea was that we wanted to combine this with basically just, you know, an artifact aggro package. In our case, we were using Court Homunculus, Spotted Construct, Spinethopter, you know, stuff like that. Just super fast, aggressive artifacts. So we were already putting pressure on our opponent with these, like, you know, these really fast artifacts. And then we were playing Tempered Steel to make them very big to kind of, you know, overrun our opponent on turn 3 or 4, basically. And that was it. That was basically the idea. Play artifacts, make them big, steamroll the opponent as quick as possible. Also, just as a note, since people are always confused about Penny Dreadful, we were also playing Toolcraft Exemplar, Fleetwheel Cruiser, and Traxos. Why am I showing you these? I don't know, because they're rare. I mean, look, people always think that Penny Dreadful is all just really bad cards. It's not. Look at this. Toolcraft Exemplar, a standard staple, Fleetwheel Cruiser, pretty good. Traxos is fun. We were playing all of them, and Penny Dreadful. So yeah, check that out. Check that out if you're not familiar with the format. And then after that, the final deck of the year was Budget, Eldrazi, and Taxes. There's not much to say here. It's pretty typical Eldrazi and Taxes. You know, we were playing Thalia, Leonin Arbiter, and Shalai as our taxes, all of which just make our opponent's life unpleasant. Thalia makes stuff more expensive. Leonin Arbiter turns off fetch lands, and Shalai makes it so our opponent can't target our stuff. And we were combining those with Eldrazi, you know, Eldrazi Displacer, Matter Reshaper, and Wasteland Strangler. These all also kind of make our opponent's life miserable. Eldrazi Displacer can flicker creatures, which just, you know, does all kinds of crazy stuff. Matter Reshaper is a 3 mana 3/2 that, you know, when it dies, it replaces itself basically. And Wasteland Strangler, also a 3 mana 3/2 that can kill a creature when it comes into play. So yeah, just lots of value. And of course, the best part, Reality Smasher, which is pretty good, particularly when combined with Eldrazi Temple to get it out even faster. Yeah, so it's a pretty typical Eldrazi and Taxes deck, you know, nothing crazy. But the reason we played this is because the market crash. Basically, the Magic Online market has been in chaos recently due to, you know, partially due to Magic Arena, partially due to people, you know, selling their collections as a result of Magic Arena. Also because Wizards of the Coast has been pretty aggressively reprinting stuff to lower the cost. So yeah, it's been a combination of stuff, but basically Magic Online is super cheap right now. So we played kind of an established deck just because why not? You know, it's super cheap. It's literally budget right now to play Eldrazi and Taxes, which is pretty cool. So yeah, there we go, guys. That was the entire year. And if you want to see any of these decks, like I said, links in the description. So if you think any of these decks look cool and maybe you missed them when they were originally uploaded, there's an entire playlist. I have my channel very organized. Everything is sorted by playlist. There's a playlist for every single one of these decks. So you can see the deck tech, you can see at least 5 games. It's all there and it will all be in the description below. But yeah, that is a look at 2018. Super fun. But enough of this. It's time to start looking forward to 2019. Who knows what shenanigans we'll get up to? Who knows what decks we'll play? But I hope you guys will join me for the journey. I guess I will see you guys with whatever deck comes next.